Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a world most of us really only see on screens. That's the sophisticated, often high-stakes universe of executive protection, or EP. We're diving into the private security built around C-suite leaders, high-profile individuals,
Yeah.
and, well, what used to be niche. It's becoming standard practice. And the shift is happening fast. Our sources show, just look at the S&P 500 numbers. The share of companies disclosing enhanced security for their CEOs, it jumped from 28% in 2023.
Yeah.
Get us 37% in 2024. Is that nearly a 10% jump in disclosure just in 1 year?
That jump is really crucial. It's a big indicator, and it reflects more than just a general sense of worry. It signals a fundamental rethink about risk. And we have to remember the context here, tragically. The murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson back in December 2024, that was, well, a pivotal moment. It forced organizations, especially boards, to really reassess their security setups, to recognize these threats are immediate, they're real. So our mission today for you listening is to get past that sort of movie version of the bodyguard. We want you to understand what executive protection truly means in 2025. It's specialized, it's proactive, it's really an intelligence-driven orchestration. The whole design is about anticipating and avoiding threats. It's about safety, yes, but also leadership continuity.
And this orchestration, it costs. Serious money is behind this trend. The median value of security services disclosed for S&P 500 CEOs in 2024, around $80,000. And that's just the median.
Right, and that spending, it's fueling a massive industry boom. The EP market was valued around $427.8 million in 2024. Projections show it nearly doubling. We're talking $853.7 million by 2032. That's a steady, 10.4% compound annual growth rate. It's a serious long-term investment.
Okay, so big money. But who's actually spending it? Is it just the tech giants?
Well, the data clearly points to the largest corporations, that's true. We found 64% of S&P 500 companies with revenues over $30 billion were providing these CEO security benefits.
64%.
But it's not just size. If you connect the dots, it's also about visibility, sector risk. Look at healthcare, a huge jump, 25% to 40% providing enhanced protection in 2024. Information technology, too, big increase, 30% up to 42%.
Okay.
It tells you that sectors dealing with sensitive data, high public stakes, or maybe rapid innovation, that's where the perceived risk is highest. Both the communication and IT sectors reported median security values over $100,000. That says something.
That makes sense, yeah, from a risk standpoint. But I want to pause on the corporate rationale for a second. Why is a board signing off on potentially hundreds of thousands for personal security? Is it just an insurance policy?
That's a great question. The main argument, what you hear from companies, is that it's strategic. It's seen as enabling leadership productivity. The source material really emphasizes this by reducing safety concerns, minimizing distractions. The investment lets the executive, quote, maintain focus on his or her responsibilities. So it shifts from being just personal insurance to being a tool for kind of uninterrupted corporate performance.
That totally reframes it. It's an investment in the CEO's focus, their mind space.
Precisely. Now, there's a governance angle too, of course. Because these services benefit the executive personally, the SEC views them as executive perquisites. Perks, essentially. And they're subject to disclosure rules, which actually is why we have such good data on the spending now. Companies have to tell their shareholders.
Got it. Okay, let's unpack that core idea you mentioned, proactive orchestration. How is executive protection EP really different from just, hiring a standard security guard or a bouncer?
Yeah, the difference is fundamental. It's about preparation and philosophy. Traditional security, often reactive, it focuses on response after something happens. EP, or close protection as it's sometimes called, is a specialized strategy. It's modeled directly on how the U.S. Secret Service operates. It's intelligence-led. The focus is entirely on anticipation, on avoidance. You're paying for the advanced work, the seamless logistics, not just the physical presence.
So if it's all about anticipation, where does that proactive strategy even begin?
It absolutely has to start with a deep dive diagnostic, what we call the RTVA. That stands for Risk, Threat, and Vulnerability Assessment.
RTVA.
Yeah. This is where the ET teams dig in. They identify all potential vulnerabilities, physical things like access points at home, but also digital exposure online. And the key thing is there's never a one-size-fits-all approach. So the RTVA is essential to tailor the protection program correctly.
What's fascinating, though, is the stat on how often this crucial step actually happens. Our sources say proper advance work, that threat assessment, can prevent up to 90% of potential incidents. 90%. Yet, Only 39% of companies that have an EP program disclosed doing a formal RTVA. That gap seems enormous.
It raises a huge governance question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If the intelligence work prevents 9 out of 10 problems, why are, 61% of companies potentially skipping that groundwork? It kind of suggests many organizations might still be viewing security as maybe a check-the-box item, insurance, instead of the core preventative risk management tool it really needs to be.
Right. It's like they're buying the high-performance car, but maybe skipping the essential maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of what they are buying, let's look at the service mix. The 2024 market share data shows what's actually being used.
Okay. So personal protection and physical security, that includes general protection, some transport, that's still the main service, takes about 45% of the market share. Event security is next, around 30%, which makes sense given the public nature of a CEO role.
But you mentioned a fast-growing segment.
That's right. Residential security, it's now up to 15% market share. And this is a really critical insight for you listening. It shows how the threat landscape has shifted dramatically. Security is less about, preventing a boardroom takeover,
Right.
and more about securing the executive's private life. Threats are increasingly pointed towards the home, the driveway, the living room.
And that shift leads us right into probably the most complex part of modern EP, this convergence of digital and physical worlds.
Yeah.
The high visibility that comes with public life, especially with social media, it just turns executives into, well, high-value targets.
Absolutely. Every innocent check-in on social media, every tagged photo from an event, even details posted by family, it all creates what we call digital breadcrumbs. And bad actors are adept at piecing these together, mapping routines, travel plans, personal connections. And unlike the old days, threats can escalate from online chatter to physical action very, very quickly now. Hours, sometimes.
And the specific digital vulnerabilities are pretty startling. Sources show 75% of executives have had credential exposure. But it's getting so much more sophisticated, isn't it? We're talking generative AI now.
Oh, definitely. We're seeing evidence of really advanced digital manipulation, threat actors using generative AI, deep fakes to craft these incredibly believable hoaxes. Imagine, getting a 7-minute audio clip. It sounds exactly like your CEO, cites specifics from internal documents you haven't even released yet, and it's demanding an urgent wire transfer. That's next-level manipulation, designed to bypass any skepticism.
That is genuinely terrifying. And it clearly goes beyond just corporate espionage into personal safety.
It absolutely does. Attackers are relentless in leveraging leaked personal identifiable information, PII. Things like travel schedules, home addresses, often harvested from big data breaches sold on the dark web. And we see targeted attacks too. For instance, threats against female executives often specifically cite or target family members. It maximizes psychological impact, which means EP plans now have to include things like family digital footprint analysis, PII removal from search engines, data brokers. It's complex.
So the protection, the shield, it has to be technological too. How are these EQ teams actually fighting back against this kind of invisible AI-driven threat?
They're becoming huge adopters of advanced tech themselves. We're seeing AI-driven intelligence being used to sift through just immense amounts of online data, recognizing patterns, identifying threats that, frankly, no human team could process fast enough.
Real-time alerts, then?
Exactly. Real-time alerts. They also use geographic information systems, GIS mapping, for planning operations. This lets them develop secure routes, factoring in not just traffic, but crime hotspots, optimizing emergency response times down to the minute.
So it's really about connecting the online world to the physical street. That integration you called it cyber-physical fusion, that must be critical.
It's the key differentiator now. You have to integrate digital monitoring with physical protocols almost instantly, because that online protest you're tracking, or that specific digital threat, it can materialize physically, very quickly, outside the executive's office or their home. Protection has to be seamless across both spheres.
Let's pivot slightly to the people doing this work. The EP agents. What kind of person is equipped for this level of complexity?
Yeah, these are highly specialized individuals, not your average security guard. Typically, they have deep backgrounds in military special forces or high-level law enforcement. And their training, it goes way beyond just defensive tactics or firearms where that's legal. They need proficiency in secure driving, emergency first response, often EMT or CPR certified, and, critically, de-escalation skills. The soft skills are just paramount. Discretion, cultural awareness, resourcefulness, making snap judgments under pressure in sensitive situations.
We mentioned residential security growing fast. Practically, what services does that usually involve?
Residential protection typically involves installing and maintaining continuous monitoring equipment. sophisticated access control systems, often high-tech reinforced safe rooms. And we also see high demand for something called TSCM,
TSEM.
technical surveillance countermeasures. Basically, professional bug sweeps. Teams come in, conduct comprehensive sweeps of vehicles, offices, homes, looking for hidden cameras, listening devices.
And transportation, I imagine, is more than just getting a driver.
Oh, absolutely. Secure transportation involves protective drivers, specially trained. It involves pre-planned routes designed to avoid predictable patterns. Never take the same route twice in a row. And when the risk assessment calls for it, using armored or bulletproof vehicles. This is also why, going back to the SEC filings, companies often cite safety and security as the main reason for requiring executives to use corporate aircraft, even for personal travel. It provides a known, controlled environment.
Right. And given how global business is, these C-suites are constantly moving across time zones. International travel must add huge layers of complexity.
It raises the stakes exponentially. These global EP firms operate in a vast range of countries. Some cite capabilities in over 100, even 140 countries. The planning is incredibly complex. It requires extensive advanced work reconnaissance of venues, securing hotels, and crucially, coordinating with local law enforcement, host nation authorities. They all have different rules, different licensing.
And this is where the really serious contingencies come in, I suppose.
Correct. At the core of international planning is contingency for kidnap, ransom, and extortion KRE. Now, many companies buy KRE insurance, but the EP plan dictates the actual response. How the agent on the ground coordinates with negotiators, with local teams, ensuring the executive or their family is protected, whatever the jurisdiction.
So for our listener who now has a much clearer picture of this complexity of the logistics, what does this kind of comprehensive protection actually cost?
Well, the industry mostly uses a daily rate model, and that rate covers the preparation, the intelligence gathering, the logistics, not just the hours the agent is physically present. For standard deployments, you're typically looking at a range, maybe $1,600 to $2,500 US per agent per day.
And what about that $50,000 prepaid option we saw mentioned? What's that for?
Ah, yes. That's generally for clients who need maximum flexibility, immediate access. It's a prepaid retainer, starting around $50,000 sometimes. It basically ensures the executive can get high-level resources instantly. Say a sudden threat emerges, or they need unplanned travel to a high-risk zone. It buys immediate readiness, avoids contract delays.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together then. What's the fundamental takeaway about modern executive protection for, say, a leader in 2025?
I think the key lesson is that EP has really evolved far beyond just visible security, the bodyguard image. It's now a sophisticated risk management strategy. It's dedicated to leadership continuity, yes, but also reputation protection, enabling performance. The real investment is in that proactive orchestration, not just reactive muscle.
And there's this central tension, isn't there? Which our sources kind of highlight. The best services provide safety, peace of mind, but they have to balance those security needs with the executive's actual life. Public and personal. It's about protecting without restricting too much.
Exactly. That's the tightrope walk. If the protection becomes so invasive, so restrictive, that it forces the executive to pull back from public engagement, or it severely limits their ability to travel and interact, well, then it ultimately undermines the very productivity the service was hired to protect in the first place. It's this really delicate balance of high technology and very subtle human discretion.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. As high-profile life becomes ever more public, largely thanks to social media, how can leaders maintain effective protection while actively resisting that urge to just live a completely hidden, restricted life? In this transparent, yet often volatile world, where exactly do we draw that line between necessary security and perhaps self-imposed isolation?